Hello, everybody. I am Sean Connor. Welcome to Ethics Training for the Workplace. This is required training for our organization, so please pay attention. And first, we're going to start out with an agenda, and we're going to go through the ins and outs of everything you wanted to know about ethics training for the workplace. In today's required training, we are going to look at these topics. And just to review those, we're going to look at the importance of ethical workplace culture. We're going to review important aspects of code of conduct. We're going to look at legal ramifications of unethical behavior. Essentially, what happens if we're not ethical? We're going to look at common legal and ethical issues. We're going to look at decision-making framework. What is the organizational and individual social responsibilities for an ethical workplace? We're going to look at the leadership's role as well as the employee's role. We're also going to focus on diversity and inclusion as well as look at best practices for an ethical workplace. We'll summarize with some key takeaways and have some Q&A afterwards. So with that, let's begin. So, what is the importance of an ethical workplace culture? Why are we here today? Essentially, you'll recognize it because it's characterized by integrity, transparency, and a commitment to doing what is right, not necessarily what is profitable. Hopefully, both, but ethics should be primary focus. It's one where the workplace culture is one where values, principles, and standards guide the decision making and behavior at all levels in the organization. So there's some benefits, including fostering trust from stakeholders, customers, employees, promotes positive work environment, and it also enhances a company's reputation. There are a lot of reputable companies out there, whether it's like Patagonia or a number of other ones that promote ethical culture, and their reputation is good. So there's a quote here that is important, and I'll read for you, and the reference materials at the end. But essentially, if the opposite of this is true, unethical behavior has significant implications on organizations, amongst which you get negative brand publicity, bad employee morale, collapse of trust, and even increased costs because of regulatory fines or because of poor productivity and performance. So obviously, there's a huge value in workplace culture ethics. The next subject we're going to talk about is a code of conduct. So, what are the rules for ethics for an organization? It's actually a crucial document. It outlines the ethical standards and expectations for behavior within our organization. The purpose is to provide clear guidelines for ethical decision making. So if you want to look at the key components of what would be concluded, it would be a statement of our organization's values and missions, specific guidelines for ethical behavior, procedures for reporting violations. What do you do if you see a violation? And what happens? What are the consequences for unethical conduct? So it serves as a roadmap guiding employees through potential ethical dilemmas and helping them make decisions aligned with the organization's values. So another quote, and again, references at the end, but it's a great quote, providing guidelines about ethical decision-making theories, values, and concepts also has immense practical value for practitioners and provides a touchstone for guiding business decisions. Without this, you're kind of flying blind when it comes to ethics. People can just do whatever they want to do without a code of conduct. So it's very important to review ours and understand what that is. And if a company does not have a code of conduct and there are some unethical behaviors, there could be some legal ramifications. And it could cost the company a lot of money. And this includes lawsuits, damage to reputation, or loss of business opportunities in general because people don't want to do business with them. There could be substantial fines, penalties, criminal charges. So there's not a lot of of good things that can happen. And in fact, there's a lot of negative legal things that can happen. And beyond legal repercussions, unethical behavior can significantly damage the company's reputation. Customers will not trust us, partners, the public. This can result in decreased business opportunities and long-term financial impacts. To continue talking about the legal ramifications, let's talk about some of the common legal issues that companies could have because of having poor ethics. This might include discrimination. If a company has poor ethics, maybe there's unfair treatment based on protected characteristics such as race, gender, age, or disability, which is illegal. In addition to bad ethics, there could be sexual harassment, and these are unwelcome sexual advances or conduct creates a hostile work environment. There could be wage and hour violations, failure to pay minimum wage, overtime, misclassification of employees, essentially classifying an employee as a lesser than employee so you don't have to pay them as much. That is illegal. You can't do that, and it's unethical. Paying men or women a different wage just because they're a man or a woman, that is unethical and illegal. Paying someone differently because they're young or old, that is unethical and illegal. These are all things that can cause issues and bad reputation and costly lawsuits. Maybe it's safety violations, neglecting workplace safety standards, and potentially putting people at risk. So these are all things that are common when people show up in the news regarding legal issues. So it's critical to understand these so we can prevent them. Just another great quote, while laws establish minimum standards of conduct, ethics represent ideal standards of behavior that often go beyond legal requirements. So just keep that in mind when we're thinking legal versus ethics. Also keep in mind, sometimes being unethical isn't illegal. They may have legal implications or they may not. So some of these unethical behaviors that may not necessarily mean it's illegal, but still they're not awesome either way and still causes the same amount of distrust and bad morale that unethical behavior may cause. Like when your personal interests interfere with professional responsibilities. Maybe another one is misusing company resources, using company resources for personal gain, personal profit. Years ago, I knew a guy that used the copy machine repeatedly to make flyers to promote his own business. He ended up getting fired. This was unethical. It wasn't necessarily illegal, but it was unethical and it was not something the company promoted. There could be falsifying reports, expense claims, other documents. Again, it's a gray area, but definitely unethical. Then there's a favoritism aspect that drives people crazy when you're a victim to this, or you're showing preferential treatment to certain employees unfairly. So recognizing all of these issues is the first step in addressing them and preventing them. And if you see any of these, you need to report this to your supervisor. To help navigate these ethical dilemmas, we use a structured decision-making framework. Part of that is this training program itself, where we can recognize ethical issues and develop a sensitivity to potential ethical problems. First, you got to get the facts, gather relevant information about the situation. Maybe that's you personally, maybe that's talking to your supervisor, but you essentially want to use fact-based approach. You also want to consider alternative actions and consider different options and their consequences. Ultimately, at that point, when you're considering unethical behavior, make and implement a decision, choose the best course of action, and follow through. Reflect on the outcomes, learn from the experience for future situations. Using this framework, it provides a systematic approach to addressing ethical challenges in the workplace. Now let's talk about responsibility. First, we're going to talk about organizational responsibility. What's the responsibility of our organization and our commitment to operating ethically and contributing to economic development while it's improving the quality of life of the workforce, the families, and local communities? What are we doing good to help people, help the organization? So I'm going to talk about examples of good organizational social responsibility and then not so good example. So essentially, what kind of environmental sustainability initiatives are we involved in? Like we support Habitat for Humanity, recycling. There's a number of other things where we've made a commitment that we're saying this is how we're going to help the environment. We also encourage fair labor practices and in addition have a number of community engagement programs. And this is important for any organization, and that's what we feel we're responsible for. Now in a scenario, let's just look at a real great example. I was on an airplane, I was watching a documentary called The Dark Side of Chocolate. And the filmmakers went undercover to look at plantations and they saw young children harvesting cocoa beans. Then when they tracked these cocoa beans, they took it to a couple of different levels to where it was bought by someone that was bought by someone else, but ultimately supplied Nestle. And there were other large chocolate companies that ended up buying these cocoa beans. So is Nestle at fault though if they didn't know? Because when you ask Nestle, they are not aware of an individual plantation, but yet clearly the undercover filmmakers follow the supply chain and they saw that there's literally 9, 10, 8-year olds harvesting cocoa beans, working long hours, sleeping out on the fields, often malnourished. Also, people can have chocolate bars and hot cocoa to a certain extent. So what's Nestle's responsibility? What would you think Nestle's responsibility is? Why should Nestle care? Well, namely, think of all the things we talked about so far, whether it's the bad publicity or the bad morale or just being good for the world and for the environment. They don't have to use them. They could use someone else. So benefits of organizational social responsibility include enhanced reputation, increased employee satisfaction, and improved stakeholder relationships. You want to work for companies like that. And for you personally, as part of the organization, you also have responsibilities. That's equally important. So we talked about a code of conduct. It's your responsibility to adhere to that code of conduct in day-to-day decision making within the organization. Personally, go volunteer, be involved with the community, contribute at your church or your place of, worship, or again, Habitat for Humanity, donate your car instead of sell it, do, yard cleanup days, whatever it, be a part of the community, as well as our company gives time off for all of those things. You just have to ask. In addition, making ethical choices in purchasing, using products and services. If you know a company is using unethical labor practices, then don't buy from them. So by embracing the individual social responsibility, we all contribute to a more ethical workplace and society. Now let's talk about what the role of leadership plays in shaping the ethical culture of our organization. Well, first of all, they set the tone from the top. They exemplify the ethical standards they expect from others, right? Practice what you preach. They model that ethical behavior, constantly demonstrating integrity. And if you don't see that, then speak up, let someone know, because that goes against what this company stands for. In addition, they hold others accountable, ensuring ethical standards are upheld throughout the organization. Unless leadership is doing, it's not going to work. So, just another great quote: ethical leadership is the demonstration of appropriate conduct through personal actions and interpersonal relationships, and the promotion of such conduct to followers through two-way communication, reinforcement, and decision making. Again, leadership should be showing and demonstrating the exact culture that they're trying to promote. They are responsible for the decisions of others as well as their own. They can dramatically multiply the amount of good they do by encouraging others to be better. And this is all of these quotes and all of these things are backed by references at the end of the presentation, as well as I'll send a copy of my speaker notes, because these references are not just things that I'm mentioning. These are legitimate studies, and there's over 7 references of all of this being proper etiquette in order to promote positive leadership for ethical behavior. As an employee, you also have a role in maintaining ethical workplace. You do need to follow the code of conduct, understand it. You need to report violations, and you need to report in this training. And this is you actively engaging in ongoing ethical education, and it is part of the overall culture of the company. Remember, ethics is everyone's responsibility, not just management's. A huge part of an ethical workplace is diversity and inclusion. Everyone is equal, everyone is included. In fact, most discrimination is illegal, and all things are the same. It doesn't matter if your sex, gender, age, sexual orientation, whatever those things are, it does not matter. So it's important to include everyone. I mean, you don't want everyone the same anyways. You get the best ideas with diversity. You get the best thoughts and programs and teams with diversity. Everyone has a different mindset. It's healthy and it's integral to an ethical workplace. So diversity refers to the variety of differences among the people in the organization. And our responsibility is to create an environment where everyone feels respected and valued. And if that is not true, please talk to your supervisor, because that is the most important thing of our company. An ethical workplace embraces diversity, promotes inclusion, recognizing that diverse perspectives lead to better decision making and innovation. We are a better company because we are diverse. Now let's talk about best practices for an ethical workplace. Well, one, training. Just what we're doing now, there needs to be regular ethics training. In addition, we need a mechanism, and you can send an email to ethics@acme.com if you want to anonymously report things. You can put in a note to your supervisor, but having a channel to be able to do that would work fine. Again, you can, even from an email, it can be from an anonymous email. Like, you could just send a note, whatever you want to do, but it's important that you need to feel safe to report these things. And we do have clear policies and procedures, and that's important for a best practice for an ethical workplace, well-defined guidelines for ethical behaviors, and rewarding for ethical conduct. Way to go, attaboys, kudos, recognizing and incentivizing ethical actions. As a company, we get recognized, so should you as an individual. Implementing these practices helps create a sustainable, ethical work environment for us and any other company. And we're almost done with your ethical training in the workplace. But as we conclude, let's wrap up and just talk about these key takeaways, these key points. First off, ethics is everyone's responsibility, from leadership to every individual employee. Ethical behavior benefits not only the organization, but also individuals and society. Resources are available for ethical guidance, including our code of conduct, ethics training, and the different ways you can report violations. So thank you again for your attention and commitment to maintaining an ethical workplace. Let's all work together to uphold our values and integrity in all that we do. And Aside from the reference slide that's next, this concludes our ethics presentation and training. Is there any questions at this point? I will pause and take any that anyone has. Thank you so much. Attached are the references, and within the speaker notes, I have included in-text citations as well as references on slides when I quoted it. Thank you very much for watching this presentation.